Hey, Vince, hit record.
Oh, my goodness gracious. There you go. Now I'm recording. We so busy talking before we recorded. Before we went. It's like, right. We're doing a show.
We're so busy talking about what we're going to do to be distracted from tonight. We distracted ourselves from the business of today.
I know. Hopefully people said, well, at least I'm going to spend an hour with them.
What's up? Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Michaud Mission, 2 Men, 1 Podcast, every black film ever made. My name is Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble. Hello. And as always, I am joined by my partner.
Hey, this is Vincent Williams.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are offering you our services as a distraction from the historical insanity that I'm sure is overtaking every other streaming service and network that you are subscribed to or own or is pumped into your home. We are one of the several dozen people out there offering you a distraction from all of that as Vince and I sit down to review 1996 comedy The Nutty Professor, starring Eddie Murphy and Jada Pinkett. This is a bit of a curveball, an audible, if you will. If you are a subscriber to our new newsletter, the Michaud Mission Dispatch, Vince and I were scheduled to review Spike Lee's Get on the Bus from 1996 tonight, but we had to do a switcheroo because Get on the Bus is no longer on Netflix.
Get on the Bus got on the bus and left.
Yes, they got going. Well, so they were moved from Netflix on October 31st. So me and Vince are going to have to do a little swapping of DVDs in order to review that film. So look for our review of Get on the Bus in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
In 2 weeks, we'll be doing that. But tonight, we're reviewing Vince's other selection for November, The Nutty Professor.
It's true. We are.
So it still promises to be fun. And shout out to each and every one of you who are joining us and watching us streaming live on Facebook as well as on YouTube. I see you, Robert Monroe, Aaron Fry, Deborah Battle. Always the first ones.
What's going on, folks?
Always on front row duty. And I join all 3 of them as well as seemingly every missionary ever made throughout all of time based on the post in wishing you, Vince, a very happy 50th birthday.
It's true. And I certainly thank everyone for their well wishes. They were very much appreciated. It was touching. It was like, wow, people took time out of their day. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So Vince, this is a big one.
Yes, it is. It's
5-0, brother.
5-0, half a century. I was joking with my friend. He said happy birthday, he and his family. And my goddaughter said, wow. And I said to him, I was like, wow. Avery just thinks I was in the civil rights movement, doesn't she? And he was like, she certainly does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, bruh. As one who passed this milestone a little ways ago, welcome to I would say this is probably the second tier of the old jokes. Now,
okay. God level.
Oh, dog. Like you, at least you got the civil rights because you know you're only 50.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? I get so Len. Did Moses hold your hand across the Red Sea? That's what
Right,
I
right.
get.
Very nice. Very nice.
That's what I
Very
see.
nice.
Deborah Battle says, "Welcome to Club 50. We had the best parties, Vince."
I know we have the best music.
You know what? That might be true.
Oh, absolutely.
You might have a good point. Well, I don't know. I don't know because if you're in your 60s, that means your music was Motown.
Yes, but we got Big Daddy Kane.
Okay. All right. All right. I want to ride with you. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight this battle. Um, Before we get into our review, ladies and gentlemen, of the Nutty Professor, as always, we like to take a moment and go over all of the feedback that we get from each and every one of you. Sometimes you hit us up on email. And Vince, we got an email from a longtime listener of the show, George Kimona, that I don't believe I shared this one on air. This was George Kimona after he listened to our review of The Sweet Blood of Jesus.
Okay. What's up, George?
So it's got a little age on it, but here it goes. Gents, with all the virtual cons and people at the job interrupting me with work, the nerve. I'm a bit behind on mission logs, but I wanted to see The Sweet Blood of Jesus first since it was on a streaming service. Man, this movie was rough. From the beginning, Spike sets us up with that interesting montage of the dancer during the opening credits. No Rosie Perez, but definitely the last black man in San Francisco vibes. So what I was expecting wasn't what I got. And as I was watching it, I thought to myself, maybe I should have seen the original first in case I missed some of the subtlety from the original. Either way, the train pulled out of the station and immediately crashed into a school bus full of blind children.
I miss George.
The cast was just there cashing a check or miscast completely. I've never seen Stephen Tyrone Williams before, but man, he was dead before he drank the blood. I would love to understand the choice to play it that way. Zariah Abrahams was a bit more interesting, but her character as written was another head scratcher. All this movie did was make me question things, and not in a good way, like Lost. Questions like, did he leave that baby any money after he killed his mother? And was the baby in the room when they were doing it? And
no.
Why was Snoop in this movie playing a prostitute? That wasn't Snoop. Oh, Snoop. That's right. Snoop from The Wire.
From The Wire, yeah.
I'm not trying to typecast, but she seems so forced and unnatural. All in all, I need Amazon to have a 2-factor button, something that says, "Are you sure you want to burn 2 hours of your life?" I'm going to stop now and listen to your take.
Yeah. The Sweet Blood of Jesus was a misfire.
A bit
of a misfire. I love the fact that you were so scarred by Snoop's scene that you forgot she was in it.
I know. I know, but now it's that image.
That's easily one of the most disturbing things that I've seen since we've started this journey.
Yeah, it is. And no disrespect to the actress.
No, it's just like that in James Earl Jones's Thaz and Claudine.
Point.
It's like when I woke up this morning, this is not where I thought I would land.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, Deborah Battle, they have fun in the comments, Vince. And in regards to our subtle little jibe about which generations have the best music, she says that and I'm going to show her here. Deborah Battle says that the 50s have the Jacksons, Stevie Wonder, and Anita Baker. I'm going to call you on that, Deborah. The Jacksons, who probably, it's fair, reached their zenith in the early to mid 70s.
Yeah.
Which, if you are in your 50s, you were maybe winding your way into like 8 or 9, 10 years of age. If you want to give yourself to Jacksons, I'm not going to argue too hard on you. But I think when you're talking about the music of your generation, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Vince, I think the ages that you're really talking about are the ages between maybe 12, 13 and college, when you've started to develop your own taste.
Right.
Not just marinating on what is being played in your home.
I think that's fair. I absolutely think that's fair. I was going to say when you start buying records on your own.
Yeah, that's even a better.
You start buying records on your own. Now, here's where it gets complicated, though.
Okay.
For people like us, and I do mean you and me specifically. You know, I always talk about that moment when you were either beat digging yourself or you were just around that culture.
That's right. That's right.
So that in my mind, someone like Donald Byrd or the Meters belong to me more than they do my uncle or my father.
Yeah, that's
right. They didn't really rock with them like that, and we kind of excavated them.
Yeah, but you didn't rock with them. You rocked to the music of theirs that was appropriated for something else.
Right, but still, if when it came out, nobody really messed with them like that. Like, I think the Meters made $37 the entire time they were making records. Like, the Meters had 98 records. And then, like, the Neville Brothers came in and took over, and they became the Neville Brothers. And what nobody think about the Meters?
Okay, true.
Then, like, everybody, again, excavated and used all these drum beats, and now it's like 22-year-olds running around in the 90s, and now suddenly the Meters have money. You trying to tell me we can't claim the Meters?
Okay, then where do you go then with James Brown?
No. James Brown was actually popular.
Okay, so the matters your level of popularity of your music.
Right. I'm not claiming James Brown. I'm not claiming Funkadelic.
Okay.
But like all them jazz souls,
You know what?
Herbie Hancock is wrong because Herbie Hancock like had a career. But it's like when we were talking during Brother John about Quincy Jones's 70s albums. Didn't nobody listen to them albums until people start sampling them.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a reason why that's a very dangerous, slippery slope. And you know why the name that is hitting me in my head is Minnie Riperton. Because Minnie Riperton, hold up. As popular as Minnie Riperton was when she came out, right?
But she wasn't. She absolutely was not popular when she was out.
Okay, but she had some hit records.
She had like 2 hit records. She had like 2 hit records, and one of them came out after she died.
Okay, but if you're going to tell the people that were around at the time of Minnie Riperton that she wasn't part of their generation and she's just a part of the hip hop generation because of Q-Tip and Tribe Called Quest,
dude. 7 people listened to Minnie Riperton when she was out.
That's not true. It is
100% true.
It's not. I listened. Minnie Riperton was playing all the time in my house.
Dude, you know what? Here's the thing. You know what my big joker is to pull out in the Minnie Riperton argument? When she died and Stevie Wonder yelled at everybody on Soul Train about it. So it's you versus me and Stevie Wonder. if y'all have never seen that clip, it's the most fantastic clip where Stevie Wonder chastises Soul Train for not supporting Lee Ripperton.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if I like the idea. I see where you're going with it. But but once you started kind of like, you just kind of slid in there like the old jazz stuff, and
Sure.
And I think that is like a really great area, because was it super popular? Maybe not here, but there was some place where those jazz musicians were king. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's necessarily fair. So I think the music belongs of the generation in which it was made and appreciated, or even underappreciated. And if another generation finds it and is able to repurpose it in some way, that's great. And make a little piece of it theirs, fantastic. But the music belongs to the generations where it's created. That's how I see it.
I mean, I just like to argue about the music.
Well,
and I 100% was like walking in my house with stuff and was like, how come you weren't playing this in 1973? And people were like, what the hell are you talking about right now? De La Soul sampled this obscure French Instruction album from 1981. How come no one ever played this in the house?
You're stupid, man. You're silly. You're straight silly. I want to talk about a couple of stories, Vince, that we saw in our Facebook group. Shout out to our Facebook group, The Show Mission, where everybody likes to send us stories and people go back and forth talking about all of the news that is happening in Black Hollywood. And I don't know how much you are aware of this story, Vince. It ran originally in The Sun out of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Channel 5 overseas has sparked a bit of a row after casting Black actress Jodie Turner-Smith, who we all saw in Queen and Slim. They've cast her to play the Tudor Queen Anne Boleyn in a new period drama, a 3-part psychological drama exploration of the life of King Henry VIII.
Right.
And for those who do not know, Anne Boleyn was the British queen. She was white. And Jodie Turner-Smith from Queen and Slim is Black. And if you don't believe me, let me show you right there. There you go. Which one of these is Jodie Turner-Smith? You tell me. Did you hear about this story, Vince? What are your thoughts about this?
I did hear about it. I don't. Is it terrible that I don't care? Is that bad? Is that bad that I don't care?
Well, it's not bad. Well, let's put it this way.
Like, I feel like it's
on brand for you.
Yeah, I feel like it's supposed to elicit some type of reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels like stunt casting / trolling. I guess I'd probably care more if I was interested in the project.
Well, okay, but how do you feel about because what the big, ruggamaroo about it is that they are casting a Black woman to play a historical white woman, which is, not done. It's not done. It's usually done the other way around.
I think the reason I just see it as stunt casting or as non-consequential is because, as you said, Anne Boleyn just sort of historically, it's agreed upon that she's white. Mm-hmm. Like, she's actually white.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Jodie Smith, wait,
Jodie Turner Smith.
If Jodie Turner Smith had been cast to play Cleopatra,
yes,
or she had been cast to play, and I forget what like there's a Spanish queen that if you look at her background, like there's been some debate about whether or not she was descended from the Moors and whether she was, she was black, or like if there's an Alexander Dumas biopic and they cast a black man, like then you got something going on, because that challenges this sort of accepted belief about what this historical figure looked like.
Right.
In my mind, this doesn't really, like, there's nothing disruptive about this.
You don't think so?
It's just sort of stunt casting.
Okay. All right.
So I don't care. I mean, like if people, like I like things that upset racists.
Well, I mean, then what do you say about the people who got up in arms about the casting, speaking of Cleopatra, of the casting, not so much casting because she's actually producing it, of Wonder Woman Gal Gadot, who will be producing and playing Cleopatra in a production. And there were people that are up in arms about that.
Well, I think the Cleopatra thing gets real thorny because it's always a back and forth about what was Cleopatra's actual racial background. Because, depending on, I don't know if she was adopted or her lineage, or, I have to say, and we've talked about certain things like this before. This is a type of conversation that I used to really be in when I was like in my 20s. And then like 15 minutes into the conversation, I realized I didn't really care.
So you went and got a drink?
Right. Or I just sat there and started thinking about other stuff. Like, why did they dress Chim Chim like Spritle? Like, I feel like they never... Like, we skipped right over, why do the racers have a pet monkey? Like, we skipped right over that.
Here we go.
And no one ever acknowledged the fact that they dressed Chim Chim like Spritle. Like, why is he dressed like Spritle? And no one is bothered by this. Or like they called the mammoth car a mammoth car, like they didn't have a word for truck. Like, why did they call it a mammoth car? It's clearly a truck. Why aren't they using the word truck? Do they not have trucks in Japan?
It's no translation. Truck translates into mammoth car.
And why is the monkey dressed like your son?
Or why is your son dressed like the monkey?
Dressed like the monkey. So like I would be in a room and people would talk about Phoenicia and shipping routes and where people, and that's what I'd be over the corner about. Is that bad? Does that make, like, am I the wrong one here?
You be sitting there on channel 17. Are y'all watching this? Do y'all see? Do y'all not see?
Right. You ever notice Speed Racer killed like 7 people in the opening credits?
Dude!
He killed like 7 people.
He runs people off the road.
Right.
Lands the Mark V on top of brothers.
Like when they said he was a demon on wheels, even as a kid, I was like, I feel like the authorities should be involved. He just killed 7 people. And why is the monkey dressed like his brother?
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, Gal Gadot is playing Cleopatra, and sure, fine, okay, fine, sure, fine. Like y'all mad about Lovecraft Country and Watchmen, and quietly you still a little crunchy about Black Panther. So fine, throw him Cleopatra. Fine, sure.
All right.
Ain't nobody gonna go see it, so it don't matter.
Yeah, probably. I probably won't go see it this year.
Like we don't talk about that. Like we all get up in arms about this casting now, but then when the smoke clears, you realize ain't nobody go see that.
Ain't nobody goes to see it. You're right.
Well, fine, sure.
It's true.
Okay, fine.
It's true. Another story that hit the George Kimona said, "Okay, this is what happens when you walk in late." Yeah, you missed it, George. You missed it, George. You may want to hit rewind. Another story that hit the wires was Wesley Snipes did an interview.
Yeah.
With The Guardian, where among other things, as he's talking about, it's an interview that he does where Wesley Snipes talks about art, excellence, and life after prison. I hope I came out a better person after a fall as dramatic as any of his film roles. Wesley Snipes is back on track, starring with Eddie Murphy in the long-awaited Coming to America. He discusses police brutality, Michael Jackson, as well as his secret society. It is a very interesting interview that he does. And he actually, Vince, I haven't had a chance to read through it. I just kind of like glanced over it. But you mentioned that he is dispelling certain myths about the Wesley Snipes persona.
I actually have not read the entire interview either. I've just seen the snippet about this, where he addresses the Blade Trinity controversy that you and I have mentioned before, and he says they're all lies.
Yes. Like now, for those who just tuned in, the Blade Trinity controversy is that Wesley Snipes filmed the third part, the second sequel to Blade Trinity, where they basically shoehorned additional characters in there with the under the direction of David Goyer. And the comedian Patton Oswalt, who had a small part in that role, has, and purportedly other people as well in regards who have worked on the film, have spread the rumors of how difficult Wesley Snipes was to work with on that film, to the degree that he's actually developed, like the stories that say that he actually strangled David Goyer, the director. Didn't want people to look at him in the eye.
He was sending Post-its and signing on Blade.
Yeah. The stories are infamous and crazy.
Yeah, and not for nothing, Blade Trinity is a pretty bad movie.
It's a mess,
and everyone points to Wesley Snipes as the reason.
Right, his disingenuousness in doing the film. Even though the story that I have always heard is that he was gung-ho for a second sequel. He just did not like what they presented in front of him.
Right. Which even from our conversations, you can kind of see the trend where each film they dilute Blade. And if you watch Blade Trinity, regardless of who you believe, you can tell from what's on the screen, they're trying to situate characters for a spinoff.
Right.
Like it's a Blade movie almost guest starring Blade.
Yeah.
But he says that the rumors aren't true. And then what I found kind of fascinating is how he says that people sort of accepted Patton Oswalt's version of it
Mm-hmm.
without any pushback, because the default mode for people is to think that the black man is going to be difficult.
Right. Right.
And I thought that was an interesting aspect to introduce into the conversation. Like you, I could have sworn I've heard other people talk about it though. Like, I didn't think it was just Patton Oswalt who talked about it. But, you know, I'm not a Blade Trinity scholar. So
yeah.
It is, now I am kind of interested.
Don't be. I mean, to be honest, most of the times that I think I've heard people talk about it, they've either yes and something Patton Oswalt said, or have said, well, I can't speak to that, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, so they've kind of like, you know, just brushed it aside.
I will say this. 2 years ago, or however many years ago, when they announced the cast, I was curious to see how Wesley Snipes and Eddie Murphy would get along in a film, on a film set. Mm-hmm. Because I think both of them have these reputations as being, you know, not necessarily team players. Eddie Murphy, I think they both have reputations for ego.
Okay.
I think both of them have reputations for you know, being difficult. It's so funny that the rumor was that Wesley Snipes strangled David Gore, because they said the same thing about Eddie Murphy on the set of Coming to America with
John Landis.
So I think it is noteworthy that you have these narratives about these two black men. And not saying I believe it, not saying I don't believe it, but I did make note of it a few years ago when the cast was announced. I was like, I wonder how they'll get along. And then apparently they got along famously. They got along so well that, as you just mentioned, part of the reason that Wesley Snipes is doing interviews is because he's in Coming to America. I know.
So
you know, they always say it's two sides of each story, and then it's the third side, which is the truth.
Right.
And I think the fact that both of them have worked together so well, perhaps again adds another discussion point to how we talk about Wesley Snipes and Eddie Murphy.
And left off of what you were referring to, some people might be a little lost. The project that was announced about them first joining up and being cast together in the film was the Netflix movie Dolomite Is My Name.
I'm sorry, they're in Dolomite, exactly. Where they're fantastic together.
They are fantastic.
Wesley Snipes is fantastic in Dolomite Is My Name.
Almost, he definitely steals every scene that he is in. And you can tell the level of at least respect that the two of them have with one another, because you can tell Eddie is being generous with letting him.
Exactly. I mean, you and I have talked before about Eddie Murphy, and you know, throughout the years, how much he does and does not collaborate. And he is very collaborative in Dolomite Is My Name.
Right. He is very collaborative in Dolomite Is My Name, and that possibly points to him being collaborative in the Coming to America, which will be released sometime next year. And it is not on display in the film that we are going to be reviewing this evening, The Nutty Professor.
Right.
But before I get there, I want to also, as much as we thank people who give us all of their feedback, I want to thank all of you who do the single biggest thing that you can do to help our little show. And that is by going on to Apple Podcasts and giving us a 5-star rating and review. We got another 5-star rating and review, Vince.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
This is from Doug624.
Hey, Doug624.
He says, fantastic podcast. I love your banter before the shows. For the record, Nice and Smooth is at a different level than Kid and Play. Seriously, how is that up for debate? Thank you, Doug624. This is already my favorite review of our show. He continues, you'll like this one, Vince. I am teaching a Black Directors in American Film Studies class, and your review of Daughters of the Dust is going to be referenced in the class. Great work. Wow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. How about that?
I know, right? I know as a academic, you would appreciate that.
I do.
He says that I would be curious to your opinions on another foundational Black female directed film, and that is Kathleen Collins' Losing Ground. Thanks very much for the show, Doug624.
Losing Ground has been on our list for years, and we just haven't gotten to it.
Yep.
I think much like Killing of Sheep, it is a film we need to go ahead and do.
Yeah, you get 200 into this, and you're like, wow, we've done 200 shows. What haven't we done? And there's so many that we haven't done, and I mean like so many name films, so many favorites of people that we haven't done, so many favorites that are on our list. Like you said, we just kind of like just keep pushing down the lane. It's like, we'll get to it.
Right.
I actually just ran across online a film that I've been hankering to do since episode 1, and that is Pariah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get to Pariah soon. I really do. So yeah, Losing Ground, like you say, Vince, is definitely one that has been it is due to show up on the mission. So stick around. It'll be coming sooner than later.
We're going to do all of them, is what I hear.
That's the rumor. That is the rumor. That we are doing them all. And that mission continues tonight with our review of 1996, The Nutty Professor. All right, it's time for trailer talk, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Who are we talking about?
Well, George Kimona, who I know is listening now, would love for us to talk about Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, but we said we weren't going to do it during trailer talk.
I know, but I'm just letting him know that, George, I know what you want to hear, but we're not going to talk about
it. Yeah. We're actually going to do it. We're going to do it right. We just got to figure out when. But we are. And we're watching. It's look.
Me. It's not me.
Look, I'm going to say this. I ain't the one with 5 podcasts.
Okay. All right. Never mind. You know what? As I was pointing, I was like, you're setting yourself up.
I know. I was about to say, one of us has hit a deadline and one of us has not.
Anyway, so trailer talk, Vince.
Yeah.
Get away from that madness that you're talking about over there. Oh man, there was something that I wanted to talk about in trailer talk, but now I did it because I wanted to use it for trailer talk, but then I did it and I realized I need it for the review, so I can't talk about it.
All right.
So that's a bummer. So because of that, I don't have anything on deck for trailer talk. Is there anything on your mind that you want to get off?
There isn't. There isn't. I'm trying to think.
Well, here's a big piece of trailer.
I have a question. I have
Sure.
a question for you.
Go.
Have you ever heard of Salt and Pepper? Not the rap group, the film Salt and Pepper with Peter Lawford and Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, yes, I have heard of that film. Yes.
Black film?
Sammy is definitely the co-lead in that film.
It's right in the title.
Yeah. I think it gets in there the same way that The Landlord does.
Okay.
No, maybe not the way The Landlord does. I think it gets in there by way of the Will Smith rule.
Okay. All right. I was thinking of, obviously tonight, I was thinking all kind of rat packy 50s dudes. And it's like Salt and Pepper. And is he in Sergeants 3?
Who? Sammy Davis?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sammy Davis is in all the Rat Pack movies.
He's in all of them. So is that in play too?
No.
Because I think he has the big musical number in Sergeants 3.
Yeah. See, the difference between Salt and Pepper and the rest of them is that Salt and Pepper is just him and Peter Lawford. So it more or less is a buddy movie. So he's kind of like the co-lead.
He's the co-lead, whereas in
Sergeants 3, Ocean's 11, Robin Hood and the Seven Thieves, those are all ensembles.
Is he in Robin and the Seven Thieves?
Yeah.
I think I forgot that.
He's in
you
all
know
of
why?
them.
I mix it up with Guys and Dolls.
Oh, okay, yeah, because he's not in that. Right. I don't think there's any black people in Guys and Dolls.
No, well, that's why I had forgotten that. That he was in it.
Yeah. So Salt and Pepper gets the pass, but all the rest of them, nah, they're not black films, not at all. If you did that, then we'd be reviewing the remake of Ocean's 11. Because of Don Cheadle.
Well, I wasn't going to pick Ocean's 11 because it's like I guess it's 11 people in Ocean's 11. Like it's just too many damn people in Ocean's 11.
Yeah, that's true. But the one thing I will say about the original as opposed to the remake, the original, while there are 11 guys in there, and a couple of the lesser names have a bit of a story to them.
Sure.
Mostly so that one of them, who is a known character actor, I just don't know his name, but he's definitely a character actor of that time, so that he can die, and you feel something for him dying, right?
Sure.
But all in all, the movie is a Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Peter Lawford movie. The remake, everyone is the whole cast is way more significant in the remake. And that's why the remake is better than the original.
That's true.
10,000.
Yeah, well, at some point I'm going to pick Salt and Pepper.
Okay. All right.
Because when's the last time you saw it?
It's been a while, but
it is the most bizarre film.
I'm about to say, I remember it enough to say this. I look forward to watching it in May.
It is the most bizarre film. All right. There you go. That's my trailer talk.
Aaron Fry corrected me. It was Robin and the Seven Hoods.
Robin and the Seven Hoods. Yeah. Okay.
Robin and the Seven Hoods. Yes. I have a quick piece of trailer talk that just came up into my head. And since we, talk back and forth with all the people watching, and we appreciate each and every one of you who watches the show. And we thank you for taking the time to, use the Michaud mission as a bit of distraction from what's going on. Right.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, the Michaud mission, this stream has a shelf life. It's going to end at around 8:30. So what are you going to do for the rest of the evening to distract yourself from what's going on? Now, let's face it. I don't care what you say. You're not going to distract yourself from all of it. You just can't.
Right.
You're it's not even possible, and don't even lie to yourself and say that you really truly want to. You know, like maybe if you're lucky enough, you'll fall asleep beforehand, but there'll be a part of you that the second you wake up will want to know what happened, right?
Right.
So you're not going to avoid it all, but like Vince and I, we were actually talking before the show. We hope to at least distract ourselves until 10 or 11 o'clock this evening, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to stay distracted? Now, as Vince has alluded to, I have a deadline to meet. So I've got some stuff. I've actually got some show business that I have to take care of. But while I do that, I will be continuing watching. I started watching it before the show, a movie that I've always wanted to see, and I took out a 7-day free trial of the Peacock Network just so that I could see it.
And what is that?
And that is Children of Men.
Oh, you've never seen Children of Men?
I've always wanted to see it, never saw it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good so far. I'm like about a good 25, 30 minutes into it.
I used to teach Children of Men in my post-apocalyptic class.
Really?
Oh, I love Children of Men.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. So.
Oh, Chiwetel Ejiofor is... Oh, I'm sorry. Have you gotten to Chiwetel Ejiofor yet?
Yes.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah. It's a good movie so far. I'm looking forward to continue watching it the rest of this evening. Aaron Fry says that he DVR'd his weekend shows and he's going to watch it after the show mission. I'm curious, what shows do people watch on the week? Do people watch scheduled shows anymore? I don't even know what comes on the weekend.
I know.
What do you plan to do, Vince, to stay distracted?
I don't know. I was telling you there's a film called Prospect. It's kind of a space western that is just dropped on Netflix, and I might watch that. And you know, it's funny because I do get that space western itch.
Mm-hmm.
And The Mandalorian was so good.
Yeah.
The premiere.
Yes, it was.
I might go back and I said I wanted to watch the first season before the new one came on.
Mm-hmm.
So I might watch some Mandalorians.
That's good. That's good stuff. And the premiere of The Mandalorian was very, very, very good.
Yeah.
It was scary good. Deborah Battle says she's in the middle of Queen.
Okay. All right.
I like that. That's a good distraction. A very good distraction. All right. So whatever you do to distract yourself, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I hope that, you know, because the polls have closed, I hope you did your civic duty and you did vote.
Yeah.
And whatever the outcome of this evening, I promise each and every one of you, all of you people talking about you've got a first class ticket to Mars and all this type of stuff, I promise you, whatever the outcome, we will get through this together.
Hey man, we lived through Ronald Reagan. We'd be all right.
Yeah, well, Ronald Reagan ain't got nothing on this dude. Ronald Reagan, not nothing. Deborah Battle she said the Netflix Queen Gambit. That's what she's in the middle of.
Okay, I heard good things about that.
It looks kind of interesting. It does look interesting. George Kimona is doing a West Wing rewatch. Oh, that's very apropos. Very apropos.
I was about to say, appropriate.
Most definitely. All right. Okay. I do watch the West Wing myself, maybe about every 2-3 years. I do a rewatch of that show. All right, let's get into our review. Vince, you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Hold on one moment here. All right. Let's get into our review of The Nutty Professor. Monica Brooks says she's watching The West Wing too.
All right.
Everybody watching The West Wing.
Everybody's watching The West Wing.
You know, I used to listen to, did you watch The West Wing, Vince?
You know what? I did not.
You know what? That doesn't surprise me. You don't look like a West Wing guy. No shade. You just don't look like a West Wing guy. Yeah.
How mad can I get? I'm not. How dare you say that I don't look like I don't watch something that I didn't actually watch?
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Grossly overweight yet good-hearted Professor Sherman Klump takes a special chemical that turns him into the slim but obnoxious Buddy Love. And thus we have the plot of 1996's The Nutty Professor. Vince's selection for tonight's journey on the Michaud mission. This film, directed by Tom Shadyac, starring Eddie Murphy, Jada Pinkett, as well as Larry Miller and James Coburn in a cameo role. It was Eddie Murphy's first $100 million grossing film of the 1990s. And for Eddie Murphy, this was his personal homage to one of his comic inspirations, Jerry Lewis, who starred in a 1963 classic film of the same name. This film, as I mentioned, is Vince's selection for tonight's stop on the Michaud mission. Vince, what say you of The Nutty Professor?
The Nutty Professor is a film that I should not like. First of all, it's a remake. And you know, I have very little patience for remakes. Because my first question is, why are you using this talent for this remake, and does it justify its own existence? Second, it is a black remake, which got a black remake of a white property, which I also am really, really cool towards, because I think just conceptually, there's this bit of condescension about it. Like look at the blacks doing white stuff, and we can pull it off too. So like just the equation of there's a white property, but we're gonna have black people do it. I just don't like the energy behind it. There are fat suits. So you know, it's like fat suits, and not only are there fat suits, but you have Eddie Murphy dressed as two women. So, you know, just that black men in dresses, all of that. So there really are these layers to why The Nutty Professor shouldn't work for me right out the box. And when I watched it today, because let's be clear, everybody's seen The Nutty Professor. Like I don't like, this is not killing ground. The Nutty Professor is not killing ground. We're not introducing anyone to The Nutty Professor.
Right.
Everybody has seen The Nutty Professor. Like you said, The Nutty Professor made $100 million in the 90s. In a lot of ways, when you look at Eddie Murphy's filmography, this is the film that really kind of led into the second wave of Eddie Murphy's success.
That's right.
So we've all seen The Nutty Professor. What I was really interested in today was trying to figure out, why does a film that has so many elements that I don't like, why do I like it? And I came away with a couple of things. First and foremost, I think this script is smarter than you think it is. Because between the fat jokes and the fart jokes and all the stuff, is you can miss, like, I think there's a fair amount of commentary on the exercise industry of the 90s. Like, there's this whole these details about the diet drinks and One of the people that Eddie Murphy dresses up as is basically a Richard Simmons type character.
Yeah.
And I think there's something going on there with that. The second thing is I was absolutely fascinated by the commentary by Eddie Murphy, and to a certain extent Dave Chappelle, on the Def Comedy Jam era of comedy.
Mm.
Like I noticed today, Dave Chappelle plays this very hackneyed black comedian named
Reginald Warrington.
Reginald Warrington. He's in 2 scenes. And I noticed both times that they introduce him, the first time they say, you've seen him on Def Comedy Jam many times.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time they introduce him, they actually refer to him as Def Comedy Jam's Reggie Warrington.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all, he starts out with the most hackneyed, women be shopping. Like that's his opening line both times. And then he talks about white men and it's all, white men have small penises and that. And then he goes right to the insult humor. That's like a staple for, frankly, a lot of comedians who don't have an act. Like they come out on stage and they make fun of people.
Mm.
And then, of course, the Buddy Love part, when Buddy Love turns it back on him. And Buddy Love actually says it. He says, I love how you take a person's physical weakness and call attention to it. And then you make fun of it. That's hilarious. So that kind of, I kind of like that a little bit. And then I think, again, underneath all the broad humor, there's a bit of heart in this. Like you actually like Klump. Like you actually like Sherman Klump. Like he's somebody that there are these moments that you kind of pull for him. Mm-hmm. Like he's kind of, tripping over himself to get this woman that he's attracted to, Jada Pinkett, who I stand by what I said last week when we talked about Jada Pinkett in Demon Knight. I hope Jada Pinkett got her check for this movie because she didn't have to be here. Like they really could have cut out a piece of cardboard and put it in there for Jada Pinkett. But I like Sherman. Like you like this character Sherman. The other thing that I had forgotten, the film is surprisingly restrained with his family. They're only in 2 scenes. And each scene, I think, is 5 minutes. But I think, there's the first scene where he goes to dinner, and then there's a second scene where he takes Jada Pinkett to dinner to meet his family. And then his parents show up at the end as sort of, in this sort of group scene. But I kind of like that. And then not for nothing, look, it is profane. There are fart jokes in both scenes. That shit is funny. Like, there's no way around it. Both of those scenes are funny. When Eddie Murphy is dressed up as his just profane grandmother, she is hilarious. She is actually hilarious. I really like his brother. Like, I don't think we talk about his brother enough because Eddie Murphy is dressed up. I think I read it. I think he plays 7 characters. So he plays both of his parents. He plays his grandmother. Mm-hmm. And then he plays other characters in the film. But of his family, he plays those 3, and then he plays his brother.
Yes.
His father is very broad. His mother, the Hercules. Everybody, we all know Hercules. His grandmother is a hoot. Mm-hmm. But I love the relatively subtle outrageousness of his brother and how he plays out. And I think the brother is the key to the part of the film that keeps it, I think, from being as smart as, frankly, the original Nutty Professor was. Like, I think the original Nutty Professor is a really smart, mean in the best way film. Like I don't know the last time you watched Jerry Lewis's Nutty Professor, but there is a cruelty to it that I think really adds to the quality of the film. It's my second favorite Jerry Lewis film. You know, I'm a Family Jewels man. Speaking of somebody playing multiple characters, Family Jewels is my favorite Jerry Lewis film, but The Nutty Professor is a close second. And for Buddy Love to work, there has to be a cruelty to him. Like, there has to be something to him that it is literally a dark side.
Yeah.
And I think Eddie Murphy doesn't quite hit that with his Buddy Love. His Buddy Love is loud. His Buddy Love is abrasive. But his Buddy Love does not have the cruelty and the coldness that makes Buddy Love work. And on the flip side, I think the outrageousness of the fat suit gets in the way of Sherman being as fully humanized as I think he very much could be. Like, I think it's there. It's just all hidden inside of this fat suit. And what I really wish in 2020, speaking of Dolomite Is My Name, I wish Eddie Murphy hadn't have gone so broad with the makeup. Like, I wish, you know, he has a bit of padding in Dolomite. Like, I wish if he had to go that route. I mean, frankly, I think he could have gone the Jerry Lewis route. Like, I don't think he needed the costume. Like, I think he could have just played. I think Eddie Murphy is a good enough actor that he could have actually played two characters, much like Jerry Lewis did, and then just have this transformation. So that at the end of the day, I like The Nutty Professor, even though it doesn't, again, I probably shouldn't. Like knowing me, I shouldn't, but I do.
Okay. Well, I came into this episode as I walked across the room to the microphone. I looked myself in the mirror and I said, Len, you're not going to make any friends tonight. I really did not like this movie.
Okay.
And I remember with fondness going and watching The Nutty Professor in the movie theaters, laughing my butt off at this movie, especially at the scenes with the clumps, you know, with him and the family. It's interesting that you mentioned how restrained it is that they are in the film. Their scenes were almost cut from the movie. They didn't want. They thought that it distracted from the film, and it didn't add anything to the story. But when they saw the reaction to the clumps, they knew that they had to keep them in there and thus build up their roles in the sequel, Nutty Professor 2, the clumps. So, and I laughed out loud at that film. This was another film where Eddie was, you know, putting all of his talents on blast, jumping in and out of suits, you know, a man of, you know, many faces in one movie. And I was with it. Now, there was a part of me, even then in 1996, that was wondering, why is he taking all this on by himself? Where's Arsenio, who shared the load in Coming to America, you know?
Sure.
And then I thought about it but I think in 1996, I just didn't have the mindset to even, well, I know I thought that, I just didn't even have the mindset to even process it or even care, because I was just sitting there watching the movie and enjoying it, right? This time I'm watching the film, and yes, I can't help but now I'm watching it with a critical eye. And I've seen it a couple of times over the years, and each successive time I've watched this film, I have liked it less and less. One is because, and it's a small thing for some people, but not for me. But as much money as they spend on Eddie Murphy jumping out of random fat suits, again, a bit that they didn't want to do. They wanted to hire other people to play the clumps, but Eddie said, no, I can pull this off. Did test footage of him as a grandma clump, which he actually writes is more or less him doing a Mom's Mabley impression. Mm-hmm. Did a test run of that. The studio backed him. Boom. They pumped up the money for him to do all of these roles. As much money as they put into all of that makeup, they could have taken $100 from that and gotten Jada Pinkett a wig that fit.
I knew you were going to say something about Jada Pinkett's wig. I knew it. Bingo. I want to bet with myself.
The whole time she is wearing that wig, I am waiting to see a shot from the back of her because I swear there's a star on the back and an adjustable strap because the dog does not fit on her head. And
I thought it was going to fall off at the end. When he dips her,
yes.
I thought it was going to fall off.
Dude, I think that was the one bit of time that they used some of the CGI for Jada Pinkett and CGI'd her hair onto her head. But they said, it can't look any worse here, so we'll just CGI it onto her head. So that was annoying me. That just annoyed. It almost took me out of this film. Especially when you're coming after. I mean, this is 1996. This is 1 year after Demon Knight. And I'm not saying Jada Pinkett had some star-making turn in Demon Knight, but she looks human. You know what I mean? So that was bothering me.
I knew we were going to end up talking about Jada Pinkett's wig. I know you so well.
And then Eddie Murphy jumping in and out of all of these roles. I'm fine with Eddie Murphy jumping out of all of these roles. I'm fine with Eddie Murphy doing all the voices. I'm fine with Eddie Murphy being as funny as he can. Eddie Murphy is funny with an ad-lib, even when he's ad-libbing with himself. But what is also on display in this film, to me, is another example of the Eddie Murphy ego turned to 11. And there is no one else in this film is given any room for any type of level of comedy or pathos or anything, save Larry Miller, who plays the dean of the college. And that's because Larry Miller, as a comedian and as a comic actor, absolutely is incapable of not saying something funny. So he doesn't have to have lines written for him. He's just going to ad-lib whatever it tells me to do in this scene. The scene probably tells him just to walk over here, and he's going to just start ad-libbing stuff. It's going to be funny. You're going to keep it in the film, right?
Right.
Outside of Larry Miller, nobody is allowed to be funny.
Yeah.
Case in point, the second dinner scene.
Yeah.
Where Jada Pinkett is at the table. And Jada Pinkett, you talk about not doing anything in this film. She is called on in that scene to do absolutely nothing but look at a character and gasp with her mouth open. That is all she does about 6 or 7 times throughout that entire scene. It's just turn, look, gasp. A couple times she's asked to hold her nose because of the fart jokes.
Yeah,
And,
fart jokes.
and then with the fart jokes gets into the other thing that really turned me off about this film. Because the last time that I watched the original 1963, The Nutty Professor, was today. Because I wanted to remind myself about that film.
Okay.
And I'm, I left the Jerry Lewis bus probably in my late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
And that's just because I learned more about him out, in the world of Hollywood as opposed to in the films, and that kind of like colored my view of the guy. But but the one thing I will never knock is the dude's talent, and I will never knock his talent. I will never knock his skill as a director and a filmmaker. As much as some people may want to spoof it, the man is a skilled filmmaker. In watching The Nutty Professor again, you talk about how smart that film is. That film is very smart.
Oh yeah.
And as broad as Jerry Lewis can be, and as the character the Nutty Professor is in that film, the comedy in that film is so smart. There are times when even the slapstick is done at the highest level of intelligence as it can be for that film. There are moments in that film, slapstick wise, that are reminiscent of some of the great character actors or slapstick artists dating back to the Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton, all of them. There's beautiful work by Jerry Lewis in that scene. There is a scene in that movie, basically the introduction to the Nutty Professor, his character, where there is no dialogue for maybe 5 whole minutes of an introduction to him. And yet in that introduction, with no dialogue between him and only one other character, the dean of the college in that film, you get all you need from the character. That is just how smart that film is, and the smartness continues with every single beat of that film. Fast forward to 1996, fast forward to Eddie Murphy and The Color Purple, and there are 2 things that are bumping up against this film. Actually, 3 things. 1, this film stars Eddie Murphy coming off of his success of the 80s, some of it starting to wane a little bit. So like you said, this is his entree into the second wave of his career. But that second wave of hits for Eddie Murphy, the Nutty Professor leads him into family comedies, which become big hits for him. And it starts with The Nutty Professor, but The Nutty Professor sits at a weird nexus where Eddie Murphy is trying to marry the Eddie Murphy of the 80s, that very loud, profane, boisterous, some might say obnoxious, some might say smart aleck character, with the domestic Eddie Murphy that is to come. And this film sits right at the nexus of that and tries to be all of that at the same time, wrapped up in a film that is PG-13. That's the rating for this film.
Yes, it is.
And yet with that rating, there is, like you said, there is a ton of fart jokes. There are at least, I think conservatively, you could count 30 fart jokes in this film.
A lot of fart jokes.
And I'm not against fart humor, but when it's 30 jokes, but they're all the same joke, then that becomes very, very redundant. And that shows that you are just preaching to the lowest common denominator. You know what I mean? Then there is because of how Eddie Murphy's rendition of Buddy Love comes off, like you said, he's so loud with his obnoxiousness, you know? Yeah. And he is so he is so, wild with it.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, there, like his obnoxiousness is already on a 10,
Yeah.
So by the end of the film, it's at a 25, and it's all over the place, and it's loud, and no target is safe from him in the film. There, it makes absolutely zero sense that the character of Jada Pinkett that they tried to set up in this film
would even be attracted
to him upon their first meeting. And it doesn't make any sense. Now, I contrast that with the 1963's Buddy Love, Jerry Lewis, and the actress Stella Stevens. Some might say, well, didn't the same thing happen in that film? In that film, Buddy Love he's obnoxious. Like you said, there's a cruelty to him, right?
But I don't even think he's obnoxious, but I do think he's cruel.
He is cruel. There's a bit of an obnoxiousness to him, but it's wrapped in this lounge lizard persona that you could see a student at a college, which is what the Stella Stevens character is supposed to be.
Which we never talk about that.
Right. You could see a college student perhaps being enthralled by that, and him having the gift for gab as he does show, being able to slowly start to wrap her around her fingers until she begins to unwrap herself and actually see what the true professor, has to offer to her. Cut to 1996. Jada Pinkett's character. It's not a student at the class. She's a teacher as well. She's a grad student. She's also super young. Okay, she's a grad student, but you're meant to believe that she is a woman, right. not some young, naive college freshman, sophomore, or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Stella Stevens' character is really young,
right?
In the Nutty Professor, yeah.
So they don't even give the character as they've written her on the page the respect of having any self-respect to fall for this knucklehead, right? Not once, but twice, because he treats her like trash, and then she still goes out to dinner with him after that. It absolutely makes no sense. But that is the crassness of this film. Put that in with the fart jokes, with also the very, very rampant use of the N-word in this film. I don't have anything wrong with using the N-word in a movie, but if your movie is trying to walk that line between being a comedy, possibly a romantic comedy, and a family film, you might want to think twice about throwing that word around as liberally as you do in this film. And to my ears now, watching it, while there were some moments when it came off as natural and funny, there a lot of times it just really, like, I bumped up against it and it just felt forced, and it felt like it didn't fit in with the film. And I also, as much as I wanted to feel for Sherman Klump, I didn't feel for him.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, they set him up that, like, yeah, he's a bit of a sad sack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that this movie loses from the original is that the original, the whole, journey of the professor to Buddy Love takes place over the course of 6 months, 7 months. It is
Right.
all in the text, him mentioning like, well, I've been at this for 6 months trying to do the exercise, and the exercises are not working for me. Now I'm thinking that maybe the chemicals may be the way to go. And he's keeping this journal to himself, and through the journal, he's taking us through this journey of exploration. And it is through that's why you feel for him, because you feel for him taking all these making all these efforts, and he's down to his last resort. Clump, you walk in and he's this big fat dude living his life, maybe not totally happy with himself, but you don't see you don't see the despair in him only until Jada Pinkett walks in, and all of a sudden I've got to make a change. And within a week, it is already, oh, this ain't going to work, and I got to take the drink.
Well, I mean, in the film's defense, it's after the cruelty of Reggie at the club.
Okay.
Like I think the film wants you to think that this type of mockery pushes him into that. Now, whether or not you buy that, I think is fair, especially if you compare it to the original. But they do I think one of the more interesting aspects of the film, and this kind of confuses me about Jada Pinkett's character. Like, you get the sense that it could have worked out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't need to do all this. Like, she liked him. Like, the first thing she said to him, I respect your mind. I followed your work. They have great conversation at dinner. It's just this other thing gets triggered. And to your point with her at the second dinner, I disagree with you a little bit. That's actually my favorite Jada Pinkett moment, because I think she kind of threads the needle of being, mortified, but also strangely charmed. Like, if you've ever been with a loved one and they have a wild relative,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, it's almost like a badge of honor that your loved one that your significant other brought you around this person. Because it's like they're opening themselves up to you. So that I actually kind of like.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about at that second dinner. I'm not talking about that at that second dinner with Sherman. I'm talking about when she goes out to dinner with Buddy Love.
With Buddy Love, well, that yes, and I think in a lot of ways, comparing this one to, first of all, in the film's defense and in Eddie Murphy's defense, where you said it's a one-man show, The Nutty Professor from 1963 is also a one-man show. Like, it really is just Jerry Lewis. And Stella Stevens is there to just sort of have her mouth open and look at Buddy. Like no one else is in The Nutty Professor except Jerry Lewis.
Well, that's true. I'll give
arguably,
you that.
And arguably, that was the critique of Jerry Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
As he got big. I just said my favorite Jerry Lewis movie, The Family Jewels, he plays like 7 different characters.
Yeah.
And according to Dean Martin, or one version of Dean Martin, that's why the partnership broke up.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of ways, that's Eddie Murphy just following the pattern of the Nutty Professor and of Jerry Lewis. Just him. But I think where Eddie Murphy ultimately drops the ball, and I'm gonna go back to the prosthetics in the fat suit.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Eddie Murphy almost didn't trust himself.
Mm.
And he defaulted to this noise.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he's loud, he's obnoxious, he's all of these things. And as we found, and I'm just going to keep saying it, like you get little snippets of it here and there, whether it's Dreamgirls, whether it's Dolomite Is My Name. There's an actor in there.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually an actor in there.
Yep.
But but oftentimes it's like Eddie Murphy doesn't have the confidence in that part of his skill set to not lean on this other stuff. And then, not for nothing, I think he hides in the fat suits. You know, I think he hides in the costumes and in the makeup, and unfortunately, and I think that's fine when they're side characters. Like, you know, I think the great thing about Coming to America is that he plays Prince Hakeem, and Prince Hakeem is the protagonist. The problem in this is that it's him in the fat suit as the protagonist.
Right.
So that kind of gets in the way of all. And you know, I don't know how many people, like, I don't know how you're not making any friends, because I think you're right about all of it. Like, you're saying you don't mind fart jokes. What I put in my notes is that there hasn't been a funny fart joke since Blazing Saddles.
Point.
Like Mel Brooks pretty much closed the door on fart jokes.
Good point.
So I thought that's really interesting what you said about him trying to straddle the line between old Eddie Murphy and this Eddie Murphy that he then becomes in the 90s.
Yeah, because I'm looking at his filmography now, which is something that you can't help but do sometimes when you review Eddie Murphy films. So The Nutty Professor comes out in 1996. His 3 films before that, you know, you got Boomerang in 1992. Now, Boomerang, you know, you say what you want, is definitely an urban hit, but I don't think anybody would say it was a huge hit. But it was a solid enough a film. But then his 3 films after that are The Distinguished Gentleman, Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Right. Trying to get back into that.
Right. And Vampire in Brooklyn.
Right.
You know? So and by the time we get to, you know, 1996 and The Nutty Professor, Eddie, you like you say, he probably is trying a little bit too hard. You know, he probably is pushing a bit, and I think ultimately it shows. I see what you're saying about the original being a one-man show too, because it is all Jerry and Stella Stevens for the most part, and Stella Stevens. You know, let's face it, Stella Stevens is not going to be confused with Meryl Streep anytime soon.
No.
But I do feel, even in that limited capacity, she and her character are given more room to breathe, more to do, more avenues to go down and potentially grow in the original than Jada Pinkett's character in this. So much so that at the end of this film, the end of the original, her character gives a little wink to the audience of an in joke that she lets them in on, and you're right there with her because you've traveled that route with her. I won't give it away, but none of that even little bit of nuance is here for Jada Pinkett, and I think ultimately that is to the detriment of this film. Now, 1996, 20-year-old knucklehead Len sitting there watching this film. Sure, I was laughing my butt off. And to be quiet as kept, 53-year-old Len, if I'm sitting there and I'm with a bunch of people and I'm watching a movie, I'm laughing my butt off as well. But there's also a part of me that looking at it with a critical eye can just say, this movie is okay, but ultimately I think it is a failure critically. It works for what it's doing, and it knows its audience, and it's going there and it's getting them, and God bless it. And I'm definitely am still, you know, a staunch traveler on the Eddie Murphy train. But ultimately this movie just doesn't age well with me.
I think that's fair. I think doesn't age well is actually the perfect critique of this film.
Yeah.
I think doesn't age well is the perfect critique of this film. Even though, you know, again, I'm not. Look, I cracked up both scenes. Like those are actually the only scenes that made me laugh out loud.
Those didn't make me laugh.
The two dinner scenes with the clumps made me laugh out loud. And I do think it is a testament to Eddie Murphy riffing. It is a testament to Eddie Murphy riffing. And but I think you're right. I don't think it ages that well. I think this is a film that I would not be against 2020 Eddie Murphy remaking. Like I feel like we'll see. I'm really curious to see what Coming to America is like, because I got the sense Dolomite Is My Name Eddie Murphy was the most confident in his acting Eddie Murphy I think I've seen. I think he knows he's funny. Like he knows he's funny. But even in Dreamgirls, which I loved him in, you could tell there were moments where he leaned on being the comedian. And I think I think the stealth difficulty of the Nutty Professor, again, is Buddy Love. Like Buddy Love is the key. And you know, it's like you get fooled by the Broomhilda and the glasses, but that's not what makes the Nutty Professor.
Right.
It really is Buddy Love.
It is Buddy Love. Exactly.
So as much as I dislike the fat suit, I think Buddy Love is what drops the ball even more so for me. But
I can agree.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Aaron Fry, and you keep mentioning your favorite Jerry Lewis movie is The Family Jewels, which is actually a film that I don't like.
Nobody likes The Family Jewels. Like that's nobody's favorite Jerry Lewis movie, but it's mine.
There you go. Aaron Fry says his favorite Jerry Lewis movie, who knew people had favorite Jerry Lewis movies, is The Bellboy.
The Bellboy is great.
That's a lot of people's favorite. That's the one where he's silent, right? He doesn't talk. Yeah,
The Bellboy is great. Look, man.
My favorite Jerry Lewis movie is not a Jerry Lewis movie.
What is it?
You know it.
I've got Mr. Saturday Night in my head because
you're there. King of Comedy.
Yeah, I was about to say King of Comedy. Yeah, the King of Comedy, and you already told on yourself. King of Comedy is people's favorite Jerry Lewis movie for people who don't like Jerry Lewis. Like, I don't like Jerry Lewis, so my favorite Jerry Lewis movie is the one that I think he's actually acting like himself.
And he is.
Yeah. So, where do you stand on Buddy Love as Buddy Love's alter ego? Since we're going to have a Jerry Lewis moment. Is it Dean Martin, or is it Jerry Lewis channeling his own worst instincts?
Oh, yeah, because the argument, well, the myth is that he actually is doing a riff on Dean Martin as Buddy Love in the original Nutty Professor. I actually tried to watch it this time, and I think the last time I watched it before today was maybe like sometime last year or so, certainly within the last 2 years, and tried to watch it from that lens as well. Because quietly, I am on the quest for the ultimate tell-all about Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. I just want to read what, as much as people can tell, what is the real story. I don't trust. I don't trust Jerry's. I want to hear everybody else's. I don't think he's doing Dean. I think he's doing Jerry. And he's turned it up a notch. The one thing that struck me in watching this film And this is how much, like, Jerry Lewis, for all his talent, still can't get out of his own way a little bit. And this is a very small thing, and only a super movie nerd, geeky, hard critic like me would point this out. Is that even in the Nutty Professor, when he is the Nutty Professor, and he's got the hair all slicked and the glasses and the teeth and the whole nine, he still is walking around with his gold pinky ring.
That is hilarious. Well, I did not watch the 1963 Nutty Professor, but I did watch the old black magic scene because I was comparing it to the comedy scene. And the old black magic solidifies what I've. He's 100% doing a Dean Martin riff.
Maybe there.
Like, he's 100% Dean Martin.
Maybe in that scene, yeah, I'll give you that. But the question is, Vince.
Yes.
Will you recommend that people watch The Nutty Professor?
I mean, again, like I said, like you've seen The Nutty Professor. Even if you haven't seen The Nutty Professor, you've seen The Nutty Professor. Like, Hercules. Yeah, Sure. Yeah, sure. Like, who hasn't seen The Nutty Professor?
That's the thing. Who hasn't seen The Nutty Professor? So I'm going to not recommend that you watch The Nutty Professor.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend that you just YouTube all the best scenes from The Nutty Professor.
Right. Just right.
Because that's all you're trying to get to. You just want to get to the clump scenes.
Right.
That's all.
So you're trying to get to. Although I would watch the scene with Buddy Love going back and forth with Reggie. I've mentioned this before. Something like something that I quest for is footage of the two of them, because apparently they really went for it.
Right.
Like, they actually were going for it. Eddie Murphy and Dave Chappelle going back and forth. And people who were there, I feel like I've heard Jada Pinkett talk about this. It was like looking at two maestros going back and forth. So,
well, it's not in the scene where Dave Chappelle's going back and forth with Buddy Love, but when he goes at Clump and he says, I forget the exact line, but he says that he had to put on his belt with a boomerang.
Yeah.
I did rewind that scene a couple of times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh God. That was funny. That was funny. So there you go. So those are the 4 scenes to the YouTube.
There you go. I'll say just YouTube them.
For The Nutty Professor, ladies and gentlemen. George Kimona says, if that SOB Jerry Lewis had the cruise I was on, wait for him as he toured San Juan for 3 hours.
Oh.
Oh, well.
Oh. Well, what you gonna do?
What you gonna do? What you do? You just had a few more drinks, George. That's all.
Yeah,
you just had a few more drinks. You were fine.
Yeah,
you were fine.
Yeah, and he is Jerry Lewis. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Before we tell you what we're going to be watching next week, I invite each and every one of you to go to MichelleMission.com. And when you go there, you can subscribe to the Michelle Mission Dispatch, our new newsletter, letting you know exactly what films are coming out each week, as well as we have a special feature that we put into each issue, each edition of the Michelle Mission Dispatch. So you can subscribe to that. You can also go to MichelleMission.com as well as in hit swag and purchase some of your own Michelle Mission swag, courtesy of T Public, because every purchase goes a long way to helping us with our show and keep our show coming free to you. We like each and every one of you who hits us up and send us all of your feedback. We really appreciate it. And you're invited to email us at michellmission@gmail.com. Like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the Me Show Mission, as well as you can and check out the Me Show Mission every Saturday in the edited form as a radio show on WPPM 106.5 FM Philly Cam. People Power Media here in the city of brotherly love. And you can wake up with the Michelle Mission every Monday morning at 9 a.m. on WKDU 91.7 FM, the voice of Drexel University. The Michelle Mission is also a proud member of the Podglomerate Podcast Network, the Podglomerate curated podcast for your earbud pleasure. All right, Vince. Next week on the Michelle Mission, I believe it is my turn.
It is your turn.
And what we did this month, ladies and gentlemen, is that Vince and I stuck a pin in 2 individual years, and we have chosen 2 films from each year. As you can see, Vince chose the year of 1996, and I chose the year of 1961 because I'm a crate digger. And I dug in the crates for a jazz fuse adaptation of a funky little, I guess you would call it a dramedy, though it's deep. And it's called The Connection.
All right.
Next week here on the Michelle Mission from 1961, a slice of black and white, I don't even know what to call it, but I think you'll enjoy it.
Looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to it. Next week on the Michelle Mission. Until then, once again, I must say, happy birthday, Vince. Really mean it, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That guy's Vince. I'm Len, and in parting, we say,
we'll see you when it's time to meet again.